We continue our Fame and Fortune Hollywood special. Alexandra Cannell is here with today's special guest. Allie?
Hi, Adam. Thank you so much. And yes, I'm very excited to be joined by James Lopez. He's the president of Will Packer Productions. And James, I just have to give a shout out to your company because you guys produced Girls Trip, which is one of my favorite movies. Also recently Beast, starring Idris Elba, which just got a summer 2022 release date. So congrats on that. But I want to start on this diversity conversation in Hollywood. It's a story that we've been talking about a lot over the past few years, but it really seemed to reach a reckoning moment this past year. So talk to me a little bit about how the murder of George Floyd reinvigorated these conversations in Hollywood.
Well, I mean, obviously it brought it to the fore, right? It brought it to the forefront of everyone's consciousness. But for us at our company, I mean, we're the embodiment of diversity in terms of our staff, in terms of the types of movies that we make and what our crew looks like and who is involved with the picture in front and behind the camera. So the diversity, the buzzwords that have been thrown around the industry, it's something that we've always practiced, witnessed by the posters that are behind me. It's something that we believe deeply in, and we built our company on that mantra. So not much has changed for us. It's the consciousness around us that has changed in the conversations. But we continue to strive to make the types of movies that appeal to all audiences from a different point of view and lens that perhaps Hollywood is not used to greenlighting as much in the past. But we do see things that are changing in terms of the corporate culture and the types of content that a lot of the distributors and studios and streamers are wanting. So that has changed, and we've seen a deeper appetite for that.
That's great. And hopefully that's something that can continue. I mean, last week, too, we saw a lot of backlash over the HFPA, over their handling of their diversity issues, NBC going ahead and canceling the 2022 Golden Globe Awards. But, the Globes, they're a big part of Hollywood. So do you think this organization can come back from the scandal? And if they can't, what does that say about the future of the industry?
The future of the industry is about accountability. To be honest with you. And, the HFPA has historically had a lot of controversy surrounding, just the diversity of the panels that make up the voting block. The way certain projects are not taken into account. There are several stories about how members, whether through screeners or through invitations to screening events, the lack of presence based on who's on camera. And, let's be honest, if the project had predominantly Black casts or other casts of color, there seemed to be less interest from the voting body. So that organization needs to be changed from the top down. And if they come back with better practices, then, you'll see the industry welcome them back in. But, they're having their reckoning, and I'm pretty sure there's other organizations out there that may go through the same thing. It's about time for some of these things to change. A lot of the way the business of entertainment has been operating over the past decades is antiquated. So those things are coming to bear. And I think as an industry, we'll be better for it when these things come to pass and they change.
When you talk about Hollywood and change, I think it seems like the audience is way ahead of traditional Hollywood.
Always.
I mean, I use the example of Bridgerton.
Always.
Nobody seemed to blink an eye that was a multiracial cast. So wouldn't it be better, the money that produces, your hits and your movies, it seems like why even bother trying to get Hollywood to change? The money is going to follow where the audience is going, right?
Well, you have a key word in your comment is the money. And, it's about being able to finance these projects. It's about being able to have the resources to move past what the antiquated corporate structures are like and what they're used to seeing as viable, right? The audiences are always ahead. But until there's a financial structure in place where creatives have the resources to put forth the projects that they want without having to go through a traditional studio system, you're always going to have that fight. You're always going to have that those gatekeepers that deem what is worthy and what isn't. So yes, the audiences are always ahead. Bridgerton is no surprise, and you're going to see a lot more projects of different genres that have a different spin on the point of view that they're being told by. So that's exciting. We're actually seeing the cultural change, and shift in entertainment. But you're always going to have to deal with the gatekeepers. But I do have hope that the gatekeepers are starting to see that, the color that matters the most is money. And if you have a great plan in terms of diversity, if you have diversity of thought, diversity in hiring practices, and diversity in content, that it's just good business. It's been proven over and over, and Bridgerton is just the most recent example of that.
Well, and James, you've been very, very successful. You've grossed more than $830 million at the box office so far to date with your films. When you're talking about what resonates with the audience, have you seen any change post-pandemic just in terms of what the audience is looking for?
There's recently been, because of the George Floyd murder and the constant barrage of these, videos of police brutality and fights in supermarkets, and just, there's a lot of the audience that's being inundated with social media in terms of Black trauma, right? We hear that word a lot, Black trauma. So I think there's a shift in audience attitudes when it comes to depiction of Black bodies in traumatic situations. So that's the shift that I've seen the most in the last year in terms of what the audience is saying on social media that they do not want. Now, things are always go in cycles. So as the world starts to open back up and everyone's getting vaccinated and everyone's going out and enjoying themselves and going to concerts and movies again, that may shift. But we've been indoors for a year and a half, and we've been inundated by the news cycles. And so I think there's a visceral reaction to trauma right now that I think, yes, that people are just want to feel good again. I saw something recently, and it was a very poignant point. It's we went through a pandemic in 1918, and coming out of the Spanish flu, we had the Roaring '20s. And so we're going to come out.
I think a lot of people are ready to just exhale.
Let's have another Roaring 20.
Cut you short, but we have a hard out. So James Lopez, president of Will Packer Productions. Thank you, Ali Canal. Thank you as well.